Don Bosco.
Mine's called
Bonavastia
Wild Capture.
Red Sweet Sparkling Wine. Imported from Italy. Seductively aromatic.
We need to start adding that into our notes.
What?
Seductively aromatic.
Seductively aromatic.
This is
Something-
spicy.
Something about this whiskey
Oh,
seduced
shit.
me.
It's time for Bourbon with Friends, the bourbon podcast that never takes itself too seriously. Pull up a chair, grab a glass, and remember, a bourbon with friends can change the world. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bourbon with Friends. Myself, Adrian, and Martin are here to talk about whiskey from around the world and how a bourbon with friends can change the world. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing very good, my friend. How are you?
Oh, another day in paradise. Have some good
Adrian?
whiskey.
How are you?
Poured up. I'm doing really well. I just had some vacation time.
We both
So
did.
I got to relax a little bit. I probably ate a little too much food, but what are you gonna do?
I saw you.
Been
I
in
saw
Rome.
you were doing a little hike, and it was a little
I
longer than you
did.
expected.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was. It was moderate, and I would say that was a good assessment. But the length of the hike was certainly longer than I anticipated.
Yeah.
So,
No, it looked like a lot of fun. You're down in Brown County, which is in southern Indiana. For those who don't know, really cool area. It's I don't know, like if you would agree, but it almost feels a little different than northern Indiana.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like it's
for
just
sure.
the outdoors aspects, the nature's aspects is obviously a little bit more. We're closer to cities, and it's a little more out there. So I do like getting down there. So I'm glad you got a little time to hang with the fam.
Yeah,
I was up in cheese country.
you were.
Once again with the crew. Went out there for the Wisconsin Whiskey Festival that took place in Milwaukee. For those who don't speak Algonquin, and we got to
Or Wayne's World.
or if you've seen Wayne's World. Yeah, we got to go there. There was quite a few cool vendors, met a lot of great people, a lot of companies I was familiar with, some that I was not familiar with. It was a lot of fun. We kind of took over Milwaukee for a little bit, hung out. I feel like I drank more beer this weekend than whiskey, which is kind of weird.
I was just going to ask if you drank any wine.
I didn't drink any wine. I didn't drink any wine. I didn't drink any wine. We did have people in our group who did drink wine. So I feel like that's the thing. Like, although we did go to the Whiskey Fest after we left there, we were it was mostly more cocktails, beer, and actually some people were drinking wine at the lounge because obviously, trying to switch it up, do some different things. And the cool thing is about all of those liquids, all of them, all from a glass. Which brings us to our guest today. And Brian, why don't we go and introduce the man?
Absolutely. Welcome, David.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, guy. So you have an amazing story and everything that you've done from start to finish, from coming from a university and then creating this amazing company that you have. But what I'm going to do is shut up right now and have Adrian go off of it because she has some important questions for you. And then all of us do in the long run, but sometimes I need to shut up and just let the woman talk because she runs all of us.
It's true.
That's not entirely true, but hi, David. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. So I read about you a little bit and I noticed that you had a hedge fund job. So how does a guy with a hedge fund job switch to creating a company that makes glassware?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think it's a very standard exit opportunity from a hedge fund. Actually, a very funny thing happened. Someone emailed me with like the last name of like one of my old bosses, and and we figured out that it was the wife of like the guy that used to like one of the co-founders of the fund I worked at. So she independently was buying like, lots and lots of my glasses and having them shipped to like her mansion in Connecticut. And we figured out that it was a very, very, very small world. So that was kind of a fun little like a blast from the past for me.
That's cool. I
Yeah,
mean, it just shows small world, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people who run hedge funds typically have some money and they like nice wines. And if you like nice wines, you often like nice wine glasses. So I guess it's not the weirdest thing to have happened. But yeah, basically, my hedge fund, it wasn't it wasn't like my job there wasn't going anywhere, and so I could either go to a new hedge fund, which isn't that easy, by the way. Like, if you work up to like a certain level at your current hedge fund, like when you go to a new hedge fund, you go like kind of back to like you don't go all the way back to year one, but like you definitely take a year or two step back. So that alternative didn't sound that fun to me either. At the same time, starting a business in an industry that I really had no idea about also wasn't that fun. But I did have the idea, and I had the idea for the software business called Som AI. And so I just started like kind of coding it, and then a few months later, I started this other company, which now you're drinking out of.
Nice.
Well, when it comes to that and the glasses and everything, I have more questions about the Som AI as well as your glasses. For example, it's the elegance of the universal, right? What we're drinking out of currently. So yeah. I have some whiskey in this, and this is Corbin cask from Lost Lantern that I'm having in here. Ooh. And this actually opens up tremendously in this glass alone. And I never thought about having a whiskey in a universal wine glass. This would be almost comparative to like an all-purpose. Is that right?
It is an all-purpose, yeah. Like universal and all-purpose are basically synonyms,
right,
in the world, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to go off of what you have with it, because there's different types of glasses out there, right? You have the Bordeaux's, you have, what is it? A Burgundy glass. You have the flutes for champagne. It just depends on what you're having out of it. And then you have these rocks glasses as well. So I want to get from you, these are extremely elegant, but at the same time, they almost seem really fragile.
Yes.
Can you explain the purpose why you created it this way? And
well, there's two reasons. One, because I like that feel in my hand, and all of our glasses are ultra light and ultra, you could call it delicate, fragile. Like fragile almost has like a negative connotation, so I don't like to use that term. Like if you drop it, it's going to break. Like if you drop a whiskey tumbler, like it might not break. So yeah, we're not trying to like beat them in durability. Right. We're trying to beat them on like the feel in your hand. I'm sure that makes that whiskey like it makes it seem more expensive. It makes that whiskey probably taste better. You guys can tell me, but at least on the wine side, a lighter and thinner wine glass makes that wine taste so much better that you're saving money in the long run, because you can literally just like buy slightly cheaper wine. And, if a glass breaks here or there, like you're still winning in terms of the whole equation. But more from a business perspective, like everyone else is already making those thick, hard, heavy glasses. It's probably like you can go to Amazon.com, type in rocks glass. You could buy probably like $5 a glass for like something thick and whatever. Right. And so there's no point trying to innovate in that part of the market. So we're trying to do basically these glasses. If you tried to buy a glass like this, the alternative would cost you like $80 a glass, right? But on you could probably buy like two for like 50 or something. So we're making like these really nice glasses accessible for a greater range of people.
No, and I love that. Go ahead, Adrian.
They are really nice. So what I would say on first, pour from the rocks glass itself, you're right about, your classic rocks glass. There's a lot of I don't know, there's a lot of glass that's on the lip, right, when you go to take a drink. So when I put whiskey in here and I take a drink, I feel like I'm very pleasantly surprised is what I'll say. And by that I mean I feel like you're getting more of the whiskey taste than you are having a whole bunch of glass on the lip.
Exactly. So
That that really, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to anybody, but
no, and that's why the wines taste better. The whiskey, maybe it tastes better because you get to concentrate much more on your sensory perceptions of smell and taste, as opposed to like the feel of it or the weight of it. So it just lets you be transported more into the drink. So better wines are going to taste better. Probably better whiskeys are going to taste better. Worse whiskeys might actually taste worse. I don't know. Worse wines might taste worse. I don't know. But
it's a gamble.
that sounds like a challenge is what that sounds like. I think we might have to test that
Here,
out.
I'm pretty sure I have some shit whiskey somewhere over there. I'll have to
Well, I can tell you right off the bat from trying it from the wine that you suggested before we started this podcast, it does bring more of those tannins and notes out that I'm getting comparative to a regular Glencairn or a Whiskey Wisdom that we've been using in the past. So it's giving that more, almost brings out more of the floral tones from the whiskey in itself to the surface.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a Glencairn. We're gonna launch something kind of like that soon. So I'm really excited about sending you guys samples of that. That'll be like 2025, but I'll send you some samples of those as well.
Yes, please.
Don't tempt us with a good time.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, David. Well, hey, number one, thank you so much. And that's actually a question we were gonna eventually get to because I was curious about that as well. But what I think is unique, and I think you said it right, is Fragile obviously has that negative connotations because you want to stand out. And when I received your glasses, I opened up my cabinet and I have way too many glasses. Whether it is a rocks glass, whether it is a Glencairn, whether it is some off-brand kind of Glencairn that's like similar, or ones that I love finding new different glasses. Something that is not something I always when I first started drinking whiskey, I could only have Glencairn. That was it. I had to say Glencairn on the bottom of it. Otherwise I'm not using it. And then I started finding some really unique ones that gave me different, different notes, different noses, palates, whatever it happened to be. And when I put your glasses next to all of mine, and then I just went back in there, and it was cool, opening up and seeing how sleek these look. And I'm a sucker for something that looks very sleek and it's just got this really cool design. So I guess my question to you is, was there an inspiration from somebody for these glasses, or was it really just purely from a point of view of how you both wanted the consumers to taste it and how you wanted to taste a wine or a spirit?
It's absolutely based on what I liked, but I don't want to take credit for the innovation in this industry. I didn't invent these ultra thin wine glasses. These cocktail glasses there's companies that are doing this kind of stuff. In the US, actually, these thin cocktail glasses are not very popular. But if you go to Asia or Japan, and you go to nice whiskey bars, there's a pretty good chance they're using really nice hand-blown wine glasses like this. So I didn't really invent the design, but it is what I personally like drinking out of. I will pick a light glass over the heavy glass every day. And that's what I want. I want my glass to be the one that everyone opens their cupboard and reaches for, because that's what's going to drive, those are the glasses that are going to be used. And those are the glasses that they're going to recommend to other people. The other stuff that's in the back of the cabinet, they're going to buy it once and no one's going to ever use it again. And that's not And
I'm obviously, like I just mentioned, I have 40 different Glencairns, and I probably use 3 of them. This and I really I genuinely like rocks glasses. When I go out to a restaurant, some people I have to have it in a Glencairn. I'm like, no, I actually like just sitting back with a rocks glass in my hand, pour a whiskey. I almost 99% of the time drink whiskey neat. It's very rare that I'll put anything in it outside of maybe a drop of water to enhance something. So I really like the way this fits, and I can see myself reaching for this on a night where I'm not necessarily sitting there really. I gotta write down tasting notes right now. I'm just sitting there chilling, enjoying a very good whiskey, and I'm definitely gonna be using this. But I will say something. I did pour the same thing in this, and it's pretty wild. it enhances the hell out of these caramel notes from 10th Mountain. I'm drinking 10th Mountain whiskey right now, and it is killing it. I can't even imagine, Brian, what you're getting from that Corbin Cash, because that is a freaking complex whiskey right there.
It really is, and literally the tones and the flavors comparative. And I pulled up my notes from the first time I tried this to this time. I'm getting a way different perspective.
Yeah. And David, for reference, this is a distillery out of California, and I want to say that one is 70% alcohol. So
73.1.
So it is a very, very, very strong alcohol. But the nice thing is it's a very complex. It's not just this crazy alcohol burn. So it's really cool. It's really cool what your glass is bringing out of something like that, which is a very strong alcohol.
It actually just kind of looks like a red wine from.
Yeah.
Well, here we can do a comparison. Here's a red wine. Here's that one.
It looks like an aged red wine, actually.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
It's really wild. It's really wild what it's doing. Like, I would love to actually try that. I've got a Corbin Cash sample, and I might have to do that later because now I kind of want to. I want to see what he's tasting. But yeah, I completely agree. So no, that's amazing. I really like your approach to it. And now, like I said, I've got a new glass to hang out with. So thank you.
Well, let us know if you need any more.
Hey, man, I always do.
I mean, I have a New Year's party and a dinner party coming up, so possibly.
Yeah, please.
Adrian, you're on mute.
You're muted, Nudie.
Well, I did that because I put a rock in my rocks glass, and I didn't want to make a bunch of noise. But I'm trying to try all the things, you know.
Gosh, this is amazing.
What I would say about the stemmed glassware is I've tried to drink whiskey out of a stemmed glass before because I don't know if it's a girl thing, but I like a stemmed glass. It feels, I don't know, fancy. It feels fancy, right?
So pinky out, Adrian. You gotta get the pinky out, dude.
So, and this glass is definitely different. It has a better like nose, like you can smell it better. I don't know. I love the glass. To get to the next question that we have, you started your company in 2020. It probably wasn't like the easiest time, right? Would
COVID,
you
right?
say because of COVID?
Tough year.
Right. So would you say, I mean, if you had it to do all over again, would you do it the same, or would you? Do you think it was beneficial? No.
It was perfect timing, actually. So basically, what happened was COVID made all my competitors in Europe have a lot of issues with the production. So I had probably a year or two where literally like I had no competitors. I mean, it wasn't just me. Like basically the top couple brands just had not enough demand, not enough supply. And so every other brand gained share. So it was actually, the COVID was kind of like the great equalizer of hand-blown wine glasses. Now there's probably like 5 or so like pretty big hand-blown wine glasses in the US. We went from like, I don't know, like 600K of revenue to like 1.3 million of revenue or something. Like we more than doubled in that 1 year because like basically they just couldn't get enough product in the US. And then the beautiful thing is like after we gained all that market share, we didn't lose it. We just kept on gaining market share. So we're up to like 2 million now. But the growth was smaller. Like that 1 year was just absolutely nuts. So yeah, it was actually, we were right place at the right time, actually.
That's awesome.
And it was all luck. It was completely luck.
Well, I mean, with everything that you just said and the experience and like gaining that growth in that time frame is absolutely amazing. Most whiskey companies, some went under, some did not. They were able to market it correctly to get their product out to consumers like you did, so they could try different wines and glasses while they're stuck at home, or restaurants are able to get a glass and then bring it out to a client and they keep that glass with the wine that they're getting. It just depended on the situation that they were stuck in.
So like on premise, it definitely got killed. So like now, if this happened, my business would get killed because I'm like 60% on premise now. But at the time I was 0% everything. So it's like, And also the other thing about COVID was it was like this reincarnation effect where a lot of restaurants like went under and then they came back up. And then when you come back up, you need to buy glassware. So that cycle also helped us.
No, that's absolutely amazing to hear. I mean, your story gives so much perspective on different opportunities that people do. It's important to drink certain types of wines with certain types of glasses, right? And that's where I'm going to lead into this question. Could you talk a little bit about the universal wine glass and the capabilities that this one in particular gives its characteristics for, and what you can do with this one wine glass comparative to how many other ones do you have? 7 or 8 different
A lot of different glasses.
Yeah.
Glasses wise, we have like 8 different models of wine glasses.
Right.
But the 4 main ones, and this, I feel like this is really like the 4 that you need, which are, and you don't even need all 4, but I think I feel like 4 is about the right amount. And there are Champagne, Universal, which is the one you have, and then Bordeaux and Burgundy. That's like the trade names for them. But like I just call them by, like, we call them Champagne, Universal, Expression, or Aromatic, because like you don't have to drink a Bordeaux out of a Bordeaux glass. Like you can drink a Bordeaux out of a Burgundy glass. If it tastes good, like I think that's totally fine. Really, they just go from like small to big. So depending on what, like size you kind of want for that wine, you just pick the right size for that. And the one size that seems to work for almost everything is the one that you're holding right now, which is the Universal, which in size actually is the closest to what other people before called a Bordeaux glass. Mm-hmm. Or some people might have called it a Syrah glass or whatever. But like it's like kind of a standard glass, good for Bordeaux, good for basically everything. But I would say, like, if you're really into wine and you want to try something special, then maybe one of the bigger glasses would work better for those kinds of wines.
Well, that answers that question. I'm just going to stop talking right now because I have so many more. So
there was something that I read. I can't remember if it was on your website, but it mentioned beer. So how do you feel? I mean, would you drink beer out of this?
Absolutely.
Or do you think it's an option? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Universal is probably the best glass for beer.
Option.
I'm a huge like Saison, Pilsner, like Belgians, Cantillon, like Goose, like that kind of stuff. Full Farmstead, like all this stuff I'm like super into. That's probably the best glass to drink. All those stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's so like this weekend I was at a couple breweries and there was actually a stem glass that we drank, and I don't know if any of you guys know if there's a specific name to that. I think it's one of the first times I've had a beer out of a stem glass. I can't remember. It was kind of shaped like more like that, like a diamond dome. Like Joe, Baba Booey Joey. Do you know what that's called?
Teku, I believe.
Yeah, correct.
Is that what it's called? I just know Joe drinks a lot. Joe's our producer and he drinks a lot of beer. So I just didn't know if he happened to know what it is. So I was drinking out of one of those, and that's why I was curious if I could try that. I've recently gotten back into beer, and I like kind of like a lot of like different craft beers and things like that. IPAs are definitely my favorite. And I was gonna try one out of this. I'm actually gonna also bring one of those glasses to my mom, who's loves wine, and I want to drink whiskey out of a wine glass in front of her just to see what she says. So she might kill me. But I just want to do it, and then I'll explain to her. I'm like, no, David told me I could. So no, but that's really cool. And again, like the sensory stuff that I got from that glass that you just mentioned was very different than if I drank it out of a pint glass, right? Yeah, Joe, that's what it was right there. He's holding up in the thing.
Yeah, David can't see him.
Oh, that's right. So yeah, he's in there. Yeah. He's holding up the right glass. But so yeah, that was kind of leading into my next one. You did answer my question earlier, and I guess what I'll do is I'll kind of reverse engineer the question a little bit. So is there any other, I mean, I guess, would you say that anything in your line you could drink whiskey out of then? Like there's not really like there's not one that you would say, no, I don't think whiskey would work that well with one of these.
Unfortunately, I'd have to rely on your opinions on that. Okay. I've never tried drinking whiskey out of any of my glasses. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like designing a wine glass is not like the world's most complicated endeavor. No. Like basically you just choose how big you want the maximum thing to be and how small you want the top thing to be. And there's only like so many kind of like configurations that work. And like if you think about a Glencairn, it's kind of the same math of like, okay, is this big of a diameter and this big of a diameter out there, and it's probably that ratio actually of the area to the area that really makes a difference. So if you get that ratio the same, it probably smells kind of similar. And like the goal of our line is to like span the whole range. So there's definitely something in the range that works well. And then if you look at our website, like we have smaller ones too, like shorter, smaller ones. We call it the bistro glass. That might actually work really well for some of these whiskeys. We try to not like prescribe what to drink out of whatever. We just kind of like send people samples for restaurants at least, and they're like, oh, this is actually really good for this thing. Oh, this is really good for sake. Like, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Yeah, use that for sake.
Is there a stemmed glass that's narrower at the top? I was thinking there was when I was looking.
Yes, there's one called the Precision, maybe.
Okay.
Which is kind of like a champagne flute, like the kind of long one.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that
more
would be
of a
nice.
flute style, yeah.
That
or
would
like
be nice. Okay.
Like I have a buddy who drinks whiskey out of like a tulip kind of style glass all the time, and like he really enjoys doing it out of that. So I've never personally had one. Me and stems sometimes. I break a lot of glasses, and it's mainly out of my own clumsiness. But I guess too, like I'm very curious, like you mentioned earlier that you've been thinking about doing like a Glencairn style. So I'm kind of curious to see like where you go with that, because I would love to see kind of the style of it. I'm very I have so many different ones. So whenever you guys do that, let me know. I would love to. I'll be a guinea pig for whatever. I will like test stuff out for you. I'll tell you if I'm what I'm getting out of it. But I really do. I'm very excited for that one. So
it's a stem. We have a stemmed one coming out and an unstemmed one coming out.
Really?
I like that.
And they're gonna be ultra light, ultra thin, just like those wine glasses. So they're already made, so we can. There's no point to ask for feedback right now. So once we get it, you'll get it. You can let me know, and we can.
I'll give you drinking feedback then.
Great.
I'm good at that. So one thing we do like to do around here in Bourbon with Friends is sort of go off topic for half a second, but still sort of stay on topic. We have a lot of, especially when we're interviewing distillers and people like that, we can get pretty nerdy about things. So we do like switch things up a little bit. And now that we've been talking about glassware for a little bit, we want to ask you. So I also like to give people a background, because it comes off really weird if I don't give background. So when we first started our podcast, we came up with a random question. It's because Adrian had a squirrel in our yard while we were recording our very first podcast, and it was giving her a weird look. This story changes every time, by the way. So basically we'll ask a squirrel related question. And today's question, the one that you get to answer, and there's no wrong answer here, David.
This is fun. This is meant to be fun.
Yeah. I'll even answer it too, because actually I won't. You can answer this one. So basically, how functional would a squirrel-shaped glass be, or is that just a nutty idea? That's a bad pun, and I'm sorry for that. So basically, how functional would a squirrel-shaped glass be?
I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but like, there's like a German kind of glass that's like shaped in the size of a boot.
Yeah. Das Boot.
Yeah, and apparently it's supposed to like have like a little air pocket, and that's supposed to.
Yeah, and you turn it as you drink it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would probably be the closest thing to a squirrel-shaped glass. So it's already been invented, I guess.
Yeah, you just have to keep turning it.
It would be a good thing then. It sounds like.
Actually, there's a duck-shaped decanter too. So if we're talking about animals,
yeah,
someone needs to make a squirrel-shaped decanter. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a ducking good answer.
Yeah, we just keep it out of the road.
Oh man, my puns are on point.
Oh, it's getting bad. Thank you, David, for entertaining that question. By the way,
we like to have a little bit of fun there once in a while. So back to being a little bit more serious. Can you describe or explain your the Somm AI?
Yeah.
And why it's different than maybe other wine applications that are out there?
Well, the thing is, you're only going to be familiar with the probably the B2C, like to the consumer applications.
Yes.
Like you're thinking of like Vivino or Wine Searcher, or there aren't even that many, to be honest. But like we're B2B, so we're only selling to like the brands, the wineries, like Jackson Family Wines, like that kind of stuff. We're doing stuff in spirits too now. So we have like Suntory's our client, Lucas Bowles. Anyway, we have various clients, although we're definitely a little bit bigger on the wine side. That's where we started. There's really no other company like ours. So I would say like especially in the wine side, like really it's really just us in the US. So basically what we do is we'll be able to tell a brand like how you're performing, like in any market or in the entire US. Are you number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4? Like, believe it or not, before we came along, no one knew. We had ideas. Like we thought probably Tito's was number 1, vodka wise, right? But you didn't know that actually on premise. But yes, indeed it is number 1. How much bigger is it than number 2, which I forget, but maybe it's like Grey Goose or something. I don't know, whatever number 2 is. And then, like, very importantly, we will show you like, okay, these are the accounts that have Tito's. And if you're Grey Goose, you can be like, okay, these are the accounts that I need to, convert from being a Tito's client to a Grey Goose client. So you can think about how like a business would be willing to, pay quite a bit of money for that kind of data.
Yeah. I could definitely see that.
So when you're talking about the analytics of that, I'm guessing there was a lot of different coding and getting access to different systems, VIP, NABCA, Nordcom, things of that nature, to be able to gain this access to get these analytics and data. Is that correct?
So we are not integrated with any other service provider.
Really?
So it's plus and a minus. So we are standalone, and what we do is we scrape menus off of websites.
Oh.
Okay, so we don't pay anyone anything for their data, which makes our costs relatively low compared to like a Nielsen or an IRI, and you don't have to connect it to anything like you would if you were using VIP or whatever that other competitor is. So that's a positive. The negative is like you don't get sales data. So we can only tell you, hey, Tito's has been mentioned the most amount of times on these menus, but we don't actually know exactly how much Tito's this bar is selling. We have ways to estimate that because we can tell if a bar is selling a lot or not selling a lot based on some of our machine learning algorithms, but we can't tell you exactly how much Tito's is selling. But really, like at least on the wine side, spirits is a little bit more complicated, but wine, there's a very high correlation between menu mentions and sales. And on the wine side, it's like there's very little other data source that like even if you tried to connect everything, you'd get like 8% or something of the market. But because we go out and scrape all these sites, we get something like 50% coverage of the United States. And so that's way more valuable than having like single-digit % coverage.
That's really cool.
Well, that answers my questions, and it gives me a little bit more insight of what you're doing, and or people who are listening, so all of our viewers as well, because that kind of gives them the insight of how your analytics are working and how your AI is able to gain all this access and push it out in the right direction to help the not buyer, but the companies compete with other companies and help do some friendly competition.
Yeah, I would say, especially since this is like a spirits podcast, like we're really trying to grow the spirits part of our business. So if anyone on this hearing this podcast is, because on the wine side, we're already like the de facto solution, like probably like a quarter of the US wine industry is on our platform. Spirits is like probably close to zero. So if anyone, knows anyone that runs, is high up in any of these organizations, like, yeah, please send them our way.
We may know a few people.
Great.
Two of them right
we'll
here.
give you spirits classes for life.
There you go.
There you go, Martin. You can break as many as you want.
Hey.
Kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So one other question that we like to ask that's sometimes more of a personal question, but we always like to ask people if they have a whiskey or a bourbon memory. And for you, I would broaden that to a spirit memory or maybe a wine memory that you have that is associated with spirits.
That's associated with spirits. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so
it could
bad.
be when you were a kid. It could be anything, an experience that you had that, when you traveled to do something, or I don't know.
So spirit includes wine.
Yeah.
Oh, including wine. Okay.
Including wine.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah,
good,
absolutely.
good. Yes, if the ABV is over 16%, I just like drop dead and I can't function. Yes, do it. But for whatever reason, if it's like below 16%, I can just drink like, this is actually a story. I was in Paris and I was like out at lunch and I was like kind of getting into natural wine, and like I wasn't with anyone, so I was alone. I just like bought a bottle of this wine, and like an hour later, I drank the whole entire thing, and I was like totally fine. So I guess like natural wine, you can kind of just chug it. So that kind of how I got started.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We're not unfamiliar with chugging spirits, so no, I'm joking. We're promoting. Yeah, we're joking.
No, he's not.
I'm not. But yeah, responsible. Jesus Christ, guys. No, but that does make sense. And now I'm thinking, like, when I mentioned that whiskey was over 73%, you're probably like, Jesus, that thing is strong.
I'm like, how does the 25% overpower the 73%? Like, that's
not by much. To be honest, once you get into drinking a little bit more and get into those higher proofs, you're able to differentiate between the lower proofs and the higher proofs pretty easily at that point. And you can tell what's going on with a different flavor profile just by having a nice glass of water beforehand that's open air, warm room temperature, and then switch over to a glass of wine. You should be able to tell the difference.
So I love blind tasting, and that's like, we just drink lots and lots of wine all the time, blind tasting stuff. And like, part of the trick is to figure out what the ABV is, because that tells you like Riesling from Alsace is like 2 or 3 percentage points higher than Riesling from Germany. And so these are the things like you're looking for. So it's funny that 200 basis points in the wine side, you can tell, and 20% on the whiskey side. Yes, you could also tell that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
We have a resident ABV specialist over here.
Yeah,
so
that's
very good.
That's one thing I can pull out pretty well.
He's really, it's almost uncanny how good he can pick out a proof.
So anything from a wine, that's where I started out, was with drinking with wine, and then I moved into whiskey. Well, kind of. My last name is Dewar, so I started in whiskey, I guess, then moved to wine, then back to whiskey.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So he's very good at that. We actually do. One of our friends in the whiskey community is doing a blind sample showdown right now, and basically 2 people. It's like a bracket style kind of like showdown, and we get to go through 3 samples of whiskey and do a blind, and we have to not only name the proof, but we have to name what kind of oak we think that it was aged in, how old it is, maybe even how far is like what the distillery is, what the bottle is. So it's and all of that is dependent on so many different things, because you take away everything when you do a blind sampling. You take away all of your crutches, really, that you lean into, and like it humbles the hell out of you, because you're sitting there like, I know exactly what this is, and then it's something completely different. And proof, even proof goes out the window. Brian's amazing at doing proof, but for me, like, I get really thrown off with things like ryes, which they can come off very spicy. So I'm like, oh, this has got to be like a high proof bourbon or something like that. And it ends up being like a 46% rye. So it's interesting the way. And then obviously I even kind of wanted, like, I think I might actually do it. I'm going to be doing the sample showdown this Thursday. So for people listening to it, I've already know if I've lost or not, which I probably did. But by the time this podcast comes out, but I actually maybe will try one of the samples in one of your glasses just to see if it helps me at all. I'm actually
thinking about doing the same thing.
Yeah,
that's honestly a great idea.
Yeah, And David, I'll give you a shout out, and I'll be like, you know what? It's because of David I won this. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
The standard for future blind whiskey tastings is going to be glass.
Exactly. Honestly,
It's gonna be stemmed glassware.
Listen, if that gets me the win, that's all I'm using. So I'm into it.
So I'm the legs alone on this, David. At this, it's 73.1%. The legs alone on this are absolutely amazing. Just coming off this whiskey on your glass alone, it provides a hell of a lot more information than it would have in a rocks glass or a Glencairn or a Whiskey Wisdom or a Fluton. It just depends on what you're doing. But this gives me so much more knowledge and basis off of what I'm actually drinking now. And like I said, it opens up so many different notes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I mean, like I said, really with wine, like literally, like you can tell the difference between like 12 and 15%. So I'm sure it's quite easy probably to tell 70 versus 50 from the list up there. Yeah.
Well, Martin, I think it's that time of the night where we have you thank two different people tonight.
I'm going to try to breathe and say it all in one breath. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, wow.
So, what are you doing? I just inhale and just start saying all of it. So usually in this moment, and I am going to get there and thank our sponsors, but I do, Joe, if you can put that ticker back up at the bottom of the screen, thank you so much. So there is a discount code that is going to be at the bottom of our screen, guys. If you're watching this on the U of Tubes, YouTube, they call it sometimes. You will see a ticker at the bottom of our screen that's going to give you 10% off with the code Bourbon with Friends. And again, that's at GLAS.vin. So please go there if you want to check out David's lineup there. It's like I said, guys, yes, we're drinking whiskey out of wine glasses today, but I have had a very different experience with this whiskey than I've had with anything, and they're phenomenal glasses. So please go check them out.
It was wonderful.
Now here's the regular spot. Okay, so I do want to thank our sponsor, 10th Mountain Whiskey. So you guys can find them on all social media platforms, and that is at 10thwhiskey.com. And you can also have a discount code for that. It is BWF15. Again, that discount code is BWF15 to get that 15% discount. Go check out their products. I'm wearing one of their hats right now. You can go get a cool hat like this. It's got the Colorado license plate, and it says 10th Mountain across it. I'm even going so far as to drink 10th Mountain today. So this is perfect. So again, you can get them in 41 states through online distribution, and as well as 28 states across the country through regular retail distribution. Guys, if you have any questions, again, go to 10thwhiskey.com, and I'd like to thank them for being our sponsor on the podcast.
David, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for the glasses, especially the universals, and teaching us a little bit more about that.
Honestly.
And giving us a little bit more information about Psalm AI and the analytics that you're doing with it, because that's absolutely amazing. We couldn't be more happier to have you on, especially someone that was on Forbes 30 under 30.
Right?
Holy cow.
That's crazy.
Doing it.
I'm not 30. I'm not under 30 anymore, unfortunately. But
either, dude.
I don't think any of us are.
None
so
of us
you're
are.
fine.
Yeah, I'm definitely not.
Yeah. I was, I was on Forbes over 41, so like I'm good.
But that was for a different reason. We're not.
Yeah, it was a different thing. Yeah.
David, thank you so much for your time. Remember, everybody, a bourbon with friends can change the world, or a wine. Thank you guys for your time. Have a great day or night. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
That's it for this episode of Bourbon with Friends. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, leave us a review to make it easier for others to find the show. You can also check us out on Instagram at BWF Podcast. Thanks for listening.